Looking to crush your enemies in the open field? Whether you want super positive trades or you're trying to figure out, Chisgule, what 5 marches do I bring? Should I even be bringing 5 marches? We are going to give you in this clinic everything you need to know to make amazing choices and play better today. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, a sponsored content creator for Rise of Kingdoms. And today we are answering a question I have been asked so many times. I had to make this video because so many people have been asking me, Chisgule, like, what combinations do I bring? Which marches do I use? And it's like, okay, people, we got a lot to talk about. In this video, we're going to talk about, first of all, what is a murder ball? This is a term you've probably heard. We're actually going to explain it because a lot of people are misusing it now. Second of all, what is your role? Understanding your role is crucial. Efficiency or brute force, we'll talk about that. Next, we're going to talk about the marches you bring to fulfill that role you're playing. And last but not least, we're going to talk about the perfect 5 marches. I don't know why I have Minamoto up here. Don't use that in the late game. This is a little better. But you get the idea. What are the 5 marches you should bring in the end game? What would perfect look like? And, by the way, we'll have a little thought exercise at the end of this around what the perfect 5 marches would be for KvK Season 1, so you can test your knowledge and see how it stacks up based on everything you've learned. So, if you want to jump to any part of this video, please use the timestamps, and I will try to get to these conclusions, the things you want to know, as fast as we can. So the first thing we've got to talk about, by the way, is what is a murder ball? What is this term, Chisgule? And a murder ball refers to 5 marches or more in the open field that are in a tight pack, wrecking everything in sight. The genesis of this idea applied to Rise of Kingdoms actually comes from my experience playing a completely different game, Heroes of the Storm. And this is a game where if your 5 players were really coordinated, they'd be all in the same place, doing the same thing, trying to, stun lock somebody or coordinate a sequence of attacks, you would just get wrecked. To approach the murder ball, you would just lose unless you had your whole team with you. And the reason I started using that term in Rise of Kingdoms is because I saw, gosh, the players that are controlling more marches, 5 marches, all hitting the same thing, are doing really well. It's the next best thing, by the way, to having, a whole bunch of people actually play in a coordinated way, is if you have all your 5 marches do something really coordinated. That's the idea behind a murder ball, is you've got 5 marches doing the same thing. So let's talk about the second part of this, knowing your role. Is it efficiency or brute force? And this ties directly in to your murder ball because the marches you should bring is going to be heavily influenced by what your role is. Are you a player that's looking to be a little more efficient? For instance, if I were bringing my 52 million power farm account into fighting, my goal is not to bring 5 marches and try to clear the field. My goal is to bring a couple efficient marches that can do decently, because this account can't hang with this account, my main, which is at 181 million power with all these commanders with all this gear. So you have to know, what is your role? Is it to be efficient and to fight for a long time, have a lot of fun, playing for a long time with a smaller number of marches, or is it brute force? Okay, is your job, this is my job, to go in with the hardest hitting marches that you can muster and just freaking wreck stuff? That's the thing I should be doing. That's not the thing most players should be doing. But let's get to the third point. Once you know your role, you got to understand that you should bring all marches that fit your role. And people make this very strange mistake, this very strange choice of doing the opposite of that, okay? And it's tempting, and here's why. Let me give an example. Let's say you wanted to use Richard I, you have him expertised. Charles Martel, you have him expertised. Yi-Song, you have him expertised. And you got Sun Tzu, because of course you have Sun Tzu. So it's these 3 commanders. And you also have Sun Tzu that you want to use. You're making 2 marches. A lot of people will go in and they'll pair the infantry. Oh, I'm going to pair Richard and Charles because those are both infantry commanders, right? And I'm going to put the Yi-Song with the Sun Tzu because both of them really care a lot about skill damage boosts, and that's going to go really well. And I think that is a terrible, miserable combination of marches. Why is that? That is because your Charles and your Richard are going to run around and they're going to just tickle stuff while your Yi-Song Sun Tzu gets melted. Your Richard and Charles can't actually protect your Yi-Song Sun Tzu. So you're bringing one march that's just going to get destroyed. Everybody goes for an Yi-Song primary. First, they go to wreck it because obviously, get rid of that AoE. So this is really important when it ties back into knowing your role and understanding what you're doing on the battlefield, because you could use those same 4 commanders and come up with a much better set of marches if what you wanted was efficiency. And if you're bringing only 2 marches, then yeah, you're in it for efficiency, baby. So what 2 marches would I bring if I was using those 4 commanders and wanted to have efficiency? Well, take a guess. I'll tell you in just a second, or pause the video if you want and then keep going and I'll tell you. The answer, the thing that I would use, is Richard with Yi-Song and Charles with Sun Tzu. And you may be like, whoa, Chisgule, why would you do that? Because nobody wants to hit a Richard I primary, and they may not even notice the Yi-Song secondary. Nobody targets a Charles Martel primary. They're not going to look to see like, oh, is it Sun Tzu secondary? Nobody cares. They're all going to find the Yi-Song that is somewhere else. And you don't want that to be you if you're for efficiency because, yeah, you're kind of going to get focused. So I mention this because, A, in your murder ball, you want to have your marches be able to actually protect each other. And B, make sure that your marches actually fit the role that you're in. There's a player that I often talk about because he's an infantry specialist, but also because he gets some of the most outrageously positive trades and exchanges I've ever seen, and that is Maximus. Here he is right over here. This dude brings all marches that are on the efficiency plan. Even though he's got a lot of great commanders, a lot of options, he brings 5 efficient marches and wrecks people. There are 0 of his marches that you can go to hit and be like, oh man, I'm going to really stick it to that, like, I don't know, like Yi-Song with Sid or whatever. Like there's no obvious target. So nobody focuses him. They all focus on somebody else. So that's especially true if you are fighting by yourself. And these rules change a little bit if you are fighting in a big group. Because if you're fighting in a big group, there's almost certainly going to be someone with a squishier march than what you have. In fact, the player that should have those squishier marches, the ones that are really high damage glass cannons, that actually is your T5 players that should be doing more of that. Your hardest hitting whales should be all in on the all damage plan and specifically area of effect damage. Which brings me to the perfect 5. What would the perfect 5 combos be right now in Rise of Kingdoms if I were saying like, hey, we're going to go in and, you know, just slay the open field? What is the best brute force combination for someone to bring? Here's what I would do. If I had infinite sculptures, I'm close to being able to make these combos. I'm just a little worried that in the middle of our next KvK, we're going to get new Cav commanders. I'm going to have to go expertise them on the spot. So what are the 5 marches I would bring? I, first of all, would bring 1 cavalry march. And that 1 cavalry march would be either a Saladin or Chandragupta primary with Williams secondary. You know, I made a video about the top 5 or 4 cavalry marches to bring to the open field. I'm taking my number 1 pick, and I'm bringing it to the field, baby. Saladin with William, amazing. If you want to be more aggressive, Gupta with William, amazing. You're getting those buffs, the defense rolling, huge. William also does a ton of damage when you're surrounding stuff. Every big hitting whale probably should be using this combination. But up next, I would bring 2 archer marches. The first archer march I would use is Artemisia, who I don't have expertise yet, with Tamaris. This is the number 3 archer pair in my top archer pair videos, card up in the top if you'd like to check that out. Artemisia does a ton of damage. She's actually very tanky as far as archers go, and she has a self-silencing ability that works perfect with Tamaris because Tamaris is going to go in and be stacking up these poison debuffs. She'll get more stacks when Artemisia self-silences, which is pretty cool. So because you're doing lots of skill damage, I want to have Artemisia Tamaris in this murder ball to apply the extra skill damage debuff. The next march I would have for archers is either Nebu with Ramses or Nebu with Esong, depending on like just how much area of effect damage you want to do. I mean, Nebu Esong, that is some glass cannon goodness. But here, well, we'll talk about why that's important in just a second. The next march I would bring, 5 perfect marches, the very best in the game. Guan with Leo, baby. Guan with Leo. We're talking about wrecking as many players as you possibly can. Yeah, you want as much AoE, area of effect damage, as you can get. Guan, AoE silence, huge. And after you've silenced them, boom. Leo follows it up with a huge freaking spear to the face. That's a 50% damage boost. Oh yeah. 50% damage boost to his abilities. That's a lot of damage. 600 damage factor, boosted 50%. That's 900 damage factor. On 3 targets, 2,700 damage factor. Woohoo! Yeah, that's good stuff. You want this guy. So Guan Leo is the next pair. And the final pair is either, and I don't know how good this commander is yet. So I have a theory he's going to be very good. But it would either be Alex with Herald for just massive amounts of damage. And okay, you're gonna go target the Alex. That's what Herald wants. He starts doing AoE damage. Alex Herald, I think, is a solid pair. Or it's entirely possible that Trajan Herald is an amazing combination here. And I know people are like, oh, but Chisgule, it's like not an infantry guy. It's fine. It's fine. Trajan Herald is amazing for the following reason. Every single commander pair I listed is a must-answer threat. And that is a term that people are going to probably start using a lot for this game, because I think that people need to start to reframe the way that they're approaching what marches they bring to the field. You are either being efficient or you are bringing must-answer threats. And of those 5 pairs I just gave you, which one do you focus? Do you focus the one that's giving a ton of rage? I mean, you've got Salad and Gupta doing that. You've got Trajan Herald doing that. Both of them are giving a ton of rage and a ton of buffs. But then if you do that, Guan Leo is going to be silencing you. You have to go deal with the Guan Leo, right? Or Artemisia Tamaris is going to be debuffing the heck out of you and blowing you up with skill damage, right? Or the Nebu Esong is blowing up everything in sight. 5 must-answer threats is my recommendation for the open field. None of this Attila Takeda. Attila Takeda is very efficient. Attila Takeda is very efficient. Oh, if you're on the efficiency plan, baby, you want to bring one good march? Yeah, bring Attila Takeda. Great march. Love it. But if you want 5 must-answer threats, don't bring Attila Takeda. Wrong way to go, in my opinion. Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not good. My opinion. And I'm not saying Attila Takeda is bad. What I'm saying is, if you want 5 nearly equally terrifying threats, the recommendations I would give are a good bit better. Because Attila doesn't do AoE damage. Attila is going to do great damage to one target. Meanwhile, I have all 5 of my marches hitting, like 3 to 5 marches of the enemy team at the same time. I think this idea is misunderstood for what people should bring to a murder ball. If I were spending all my sculptures right now to make a sort of perfect combo, and I actually think I have enough sculptures to do this, and I have the gear to make this happen, I would probably on the spot expertise Artemisia and Tamaris. I would on the spot expertise Leonidas, and I would have that murder ball that I just described. But I'm patiently waiting. I am patiently waiting for the next KvK pop. I am patiently waiting until we know what those Cav commanders are. So I will have enough sculptures to go instant max them, should that be a thing. Because by my calculations, for those of you keeping track, the earliest time that we might all be battling in a KvK is really soon. It's like, okay, 5 weeks away. I'm talking like 5 weeks until the pass is open for the first fighting. We could be 5 weeks away. I would guess maybe between 5 to 8 weeks. And I get a lot of sculptures in that amount of time because I'm spending a ridiculous amount of money in this game, about $2,000 a month. But I always want to be ready. And there's a huge advantage to being prepared, but that's enough talking in this video. I get that this video was a good bit more like a podcast than a video. Hopefully you enjoyed me waving my hands around and talking and showing you my beautiful, long, flowing, not receding hairline that everybody loves to talk about because it's such a sexy topic. But if you did enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here, consider subscribing, and let me ask you that question I promised at the very beginning of the video. What would be, as a thought exercise, the perfect 5 marches for going all in on 5 must-answer threats in KvK Season 1? If you had every commander available in KvK Season 1, what would that be? I will be perfectly honest and say that I probably could put more thought into this, and I wish I had like the time to just really jam on this for a while, but I think I'm pretty happy with these combinations, and I bet you all will come up with a better pair list. But what I would do is Esong with El Cid. I mean, just go all in on those archer stats. I get that they're a little bit of a target, right? But this is KvK Season 1. Like, you don't got that many pairs to work with here. Esong with El Cid. I would do Ethelfled with Barca. I know, but here's the thing. This debuff is really good. You don't answer the Ethelfled Barca March, dude, those debuffs are going to wreck you. They are hitting an upwards of 5 and 3 targets. I mean, they are doing AoE damage. It's KvK Season 1, people. The options are limited. Next up, I would be using Minamoto, not with double C, but with Mehmed. I want that AoE damage, baby. Minamoto with Mehmed. Give me that AoE damage, the skill damage boost, the extra march size. Yeah. This is what I want. Minamoto Mehmed. 4th March, by the way. This is a little weird, but it's Charles and Mulan. And you may think, Chisgule, what? How is that a must-answer threat? The thing is, the Charles, he's got the march speed, big deal. He's got the sustain, but people need to answer the Mulan. They've got you. If you're just gonna let me sit there, okay, and run around with an expertise Mulan, okay, sure. No problem. I will take the 60% of stats every 3 seconds. Is the duration. Yeah, I'll take that. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Charles with Mulan running around. You have to answer that. You don't answer that? Fine. I buff everybody. Just like if you bring a Joan of Arc, it's a must-answer threat. Because I have every commander in the world in this theoretical situation. I'm bringing Mulan instead of Joan of Arc for open field specifically, in part because the march speed here is really amazing. Especially if people ignore it. Dude, these marches I'm bringing need the speed, baby. You think that Ethelfled Barca goes anywhere fast? Hell no. You need the speed. The final march that I came up with, and this is a little weird, but it's actually kind of amazing, is Frederick I. Big damage with a Sun Tzu. Woo. Sun Tzu, baby. Boost the damage, reduce the damage you take, give yourself a little bit of health here. AoE damage, rage generation. Oh yeah, crank out that Freddy damage using a Sun Tzu secondary. Those are the 5 marches I came up with for KvK Season 1. If I had everything available from KvK Season 1, I didn't include Lubu because, yeah, I don't think you can get him anymore right now. So I didn't include him. I didn't include Diao Chen, didn't include her. Okay. Those are the marches I would bring, but I'd be very eager to hear what your choices are. If you've left with anything this video, I hope it is a better understanding of what a murder ball really is supposed to be. It's not really about efficiency. That's not exactly a murder ball. That's just 5 efficient marches. Okay. And what a must-answer threat is, and when to pair and combine those different ideas. Mixing efficiency with must-answer threats means your must-answer threats are going to get wrecked and you have nothing to protect them because your efficient things just sort of walk around and tickle the enemy. That's what I would be thinking about, but I've talked enough, and thank you for watching.